Shanti. This picture behind me is the Kalpa tree, and it's basically the tree of all souls, and that incorporates every single soul on the planet, and call it the Kalpa tree, and Kalpa means eternal. So you've got the normal family trees that we view so often, in the sense of seeing your family background, and that's the history of the body in this life. But this is the history of all souls, so it covers all children of God, which are all souls, which are manifesting themselves through a physical body. You know, of course we have complications when it comes to what we call body consciousness, because a white person will see a black person as a black person and vice versa. A particular caste will see a particular caste in the same kind of light, and see other castes in a different light. You know, there's male and female fight for equality that goes on, and all the political, the countries that wage war against each other, when in actual fact they're all a world family of souls, all playing different roles on the world stage. And this kind of breaks it all down for us, because every soul, the differences become so different because they fall into certain sections in the Kalpa tree, in the tree of life, or the tree of humanity, if you like. And so you've got the seed, which is God, and God is truth. So, you know, when man's in a state of falsehood, he calls out to God, because God's truth, and he's in a state of sorrow and misery, the human being, so he calls out to God. And obviously if man is a state of truth, then he won't call out to God, because he's already in that state. So there's two things about the Supreme Soul, and that's the seed, like a seed, and that seed is a state of truth. But he's also got the knowledge of how to remove that falsehood within him. So human beings are filled with falsehood at the present time. They're living in a false identity, and all their friends and relatives have made love a very restricted, confined state of existence. So it's not pure love, it's selective love, and it's actually limited to only the band of people that are in favour, or blood ties, because of blood ties. Very often we tolerate a lot of people because of blood ties, and we wouldn't tolerate them if it wasn't for those blood ties, which is why they say you can choose your friends, you can't choose your family. But this is a world family. So the beauty of this tree is that everyone who is on this tree, which is everyone, has a certain beauty. They're playing their own role, and you can't take one part of the tree and put it somewhere else. So it belongs where it's meant to belong, and we're taught to accommodate every soul's religion, every soul's belief system, every soul's culture, because it's their right and their entitlement to play that role in the world of karma. If they are doing anything that is anti-social, antisocial according to what the true nature of the soul is, then they'll reap the reward of suffering. So in a sense, it actually stops people taking the law into their own hands and trying to change a person that doesn't want to be changed. And if they did want to be changed, then they'll change in their own time. So God is the seed of the tree, and what happens is that he creates an all virtuous state of consciousness, which is what we call soul consciousness. Soul consciousness means to be not affected by anything of the outside world, to be effective to the outside world, but to remain unaffected of the outside world. And so God is full of virtues, and because he's full of virtues, there are no vices, there are no weaknesses, so his virtues enable him to remain ever strong, eternally powerful. He doesn't come into the cycle of birth and rebirth, he stays outside of it. So when he trains the human soul with the knowledge of truth that he has inside of him, then that world, the world of birth and rebirth in the happiest times of humanity, it's for the children, not for himself, because he doesn't get the fruit of what he establishes. We get the fruit of what he establishes. So God is an all virtuous being with all the virtues inside of him, and he teaches the children to be the same, just like a musician really would teach his apprentices, if that's the right word, or followers to actually become musically talented. Similarly, Baba, or God, the Supreme Being, teaches his children to become all virtuous and not invest in weaknesses, neither of the self nor of others. So for this reason, God is actually establishing truth through an all virtuous state here on earth, because the soul reaps its rewards here on earth. Thus we have the seed creating the trunk, which is an all virtuous dynasty of people who had only love, power, peace and happiness in their coffers, in their stockroom. This is the trunk of the tree, which we call the deity religion. And it's a religion in the sense of, it's a religion because it's a way of life. So therefore, the natural nature of purity, peace and divinity is working for the soul. It's creating a way of doing everything automatically. So you're not actually thinking, I should be more, or I shouldn't be more, I shouldn't be so like this. This is not the original religion of the soul, is it works for the soul. So we are under the influence of something always. You know, forever the soul is under the influence of something, but it's under the influence of its own goodness. So basically, the goodness makes you feel good, and everyone else's goodness is supporting them. The matter reflects that, so there's no suffering, no pain. The world is called the Golden Age, or Satyog, the age of truth, established by the truth, but manifesting through the human soul, so called in India as Lakshmi and Narayan, Ram and Sita, all these deities that lived on earth. In the Christian belief, it's the era of Adam and Eve, but it's in actual fact, you know, they call him the Heavenly Godfather, so he establishes heaven. And heaven is down here. It takes place down on earth. It doesn't take place up above. The reason why people believe this is because they believe that heaven is beyond this world. But in actual fact, virtues take you beyond suffering. So that concept was taken in a physical way, and it actually had a spiritual meaning by me practicing being the soul, the peaceful, powerful, pure child of God, manifesting qualities through my physical role, then that actually stops all the effect happening. So I don't need to go anywhere because I'm doing what takes me beyond. But I'm not going beyond up above. I'm going beyond my own weaknesses, not other people's weaknesses. If I haven't got those weaknesses, their weaknesses can't affect me. So by going beyond, by being beyond my own weaknesses, I'm beyond others' weaknesses. So once the deity religion has lasted for thousands of years, approximately 2,500 years, he reaches a point where he's actually using up his power. There's a decline in the power of the virtues. So that which is kind of like been inherited from God is on the decline. I'm not thinking of God, I'm not thinking of religion, I'm not thinking of searching, I'm not even thinking of travelling anywhere, because in my own space it's a beautiful adventure of divinity, of happiness. But when that's on the decline, then the soul starts to involve in the sensual pleasures of the external. So instead of a state of joy, we revert to enjoy. So we actually are losing more power. The more we enjoy, we lose our inner joy. Inner joy is a state, at this period of time we're in a creative state. We're recreating a consciousness that we once had. You can't search for something you've never had. So you once had that. If you're searching, it's because you had it, and we're retrieving it once more. So God has established this before. We lost it. We look to God to revive it. And notice the word re. It means we're actually not just arriving, but we're reviving. So it's actually recapturing. So if I allow my soul conscious state to work for me, then virtues will naturally return to the soul. I have to do very little else. But anyway, this time period, after a couple of thousand years have passed by, the soul is on the decline of power. So at a right time, in the right way, a soul comes from the home, so-called Abraham, to establish an aspect of truth, which is, you might argue about this, but law. Abraham for law, Buddha for peace, Christ for love. And they established these qualities of purity, qualities of an original state of truth. And when the drama of life, the birth and rebirth, when the whole drama needs a helping hand, powerful souls come from the home to play their roles. They establish a religion, and so you've got the beauty of Judaism, the beauty of Buddhism, the beauty of Christianity, the beauty of Guru Nanak Sikhism, beauty of Mohammed's Muslim way of life. And you've also got Shankaracharya, who was for the souls that actually chose to be hermits and recluses and didn't really want to rub shoulders too much with other human beings. So you've got the whole of the different branches, and some people say, well, they don't believe in God, they don't believe in religion, but the thing is that their religion might be money, their religion might be power, their religion might be status and possessions. That's still a religion, because when people are consumers, they think that they're consumers of things, but those things are actually consuming them. So the more people chase after it, the more they erode everything, because that thing is what they're in bondage to. So, they've given their mind to something, so the thing takes over. You buy an elephant, you've got to feed it. So everyone has their own religion. It can be perfection in a physical way. You know, it might be sport that someone excels in, but the proof really of the lockdown is that we'll be pulling their minds now. So anything that pulls the mind towards something is what they're actually religiously involved in. Their mind is religiously worshipping that thing. So it is a form of worship, whether it be money, whether it be the body, whether it be materialism, whether it be Buddha, Christ and all those things. I mean, Christ didn't teach all that worship of him. He pointed towards God, as Guru Nanak pointed towards God. But nevertheless, respect. This is a tree of respect, where every soul actually respects the position of every soul who's on the whole of the Kalpa tree, because that adds to the beautiful decoration of the tree. Probably where the Christmas trees actually appear from is that the human soul remembers this vast tree of life, this unlimited tree that incorporates every soul with their isms and cults. Doesn't matter, that's their role, that's what they're here to play. It's the beauty of the entire tree. But as the branches grow, they actually lose the original concept of the messenger souls, and they go away from the original message of Christ's love. For example, they may use it in a political way, they may use it to control others, but you know, in its purest form there was a purity about it. And anyway, it's all drama. Souls are meant to play that role. But the problem with all those roles that they play, that they'll try to use force to actually get something across. And love is a force in itself. So by using force, the negative state of force, it becomes anti-love, like the opposite to love, and creates fear. So people will try to control others, no doubt, through fear. But they also are trying to get back to love. The power of love fills your self-respect and doesn't make you want to chase after everyone and hunt them down and control them. So gold and silver, copper and iron, new to old of every branch, and then the twigs go off in their own ways. And I remember one Christian was saying about their religious belief of Christianity, I believe this, but I don't believe that. What I believe is, and they were kind of formulating their own little branch. It branches off. But they're all special branch. They're all special branches because that's the role that they're playing. They are children of the one seed. So once God has established that role, this is where the roots come in of the tree. We're at a period of time now which is called the confluence age, or the end of the old tree and the beginning of the new. You can probably see right at the bottom of this picture is there's a tree that is just finishing. And what you're doing is you're taking your power, re-empowering yourself through an inner state of soul consciousness, through connection and remembrance of the Supreme Soul with a lot of love. And you're kind of recreating this new tree in advance. The roots are underneath the ground. They can't be seen. It's a reality, but it's not a physical reality, so they won't take place until the soul has completely purified his consciousness through remembrance of that most beautiful, elevated, pure consciousness we call Baba, or Shiva, the benefactor, Father. He doesn't take sorrow when everyone's blaming God for all the atrocities that are happening on the earth, but what happens is that the human soul moves a little bit further away from that source of love. Blame does that. Blame moves the soul away from a beautiful state of awareness into a world of confusion, imagination, and eventually depression and anger. And so, blame makes us lame. So we're actually re-evaluating everything about ourselves, not looking too much on the outside. We know what's going on the outside. We need that 1%, and we need introspection, 99%. That's the perfect balance. 1% outside, 99% inside. So this is the tree, but the difference between a normal tree is that once the seed, the Supreme Soul, has re-established it, he heads for home. His job is done. He goes into a state of silence. So man will do what God knows he will do. He will take the truth and he will take a part of it, and he'll understand it according to his own mat, his own directions. So we have these 3 words in Raj Yoga: Shrimat, which is the Supreme's directions, which is to become soul conscious, give happiness, don't take sorrow, just keep giving happiness, change yourself. And then there's the Parmat, which is the directions of others, where others will influence a person and say, well, you're wasting your time for this stuff, for there's a whole life to lead outside. And there's Manmat, where I agree and go off with them, or I actually become my own detour, my own decoy away from the source, get myself too much involved in what other people are involved in, and make my mind a very sorrowful place to live in, because we do live in our minds. I know it looks like we live in this world, but we don't really. We've got a world within a world, and the world within is our consciousness. So everything is leading to a state of falling apart at the seams, and that's because everyone is going away from the original seed of truth and have created their own truth. So that's everyone's right. When the human souls are ready, they'll start to question their own selves. One day the scientists, who are also souls, will think about their search through space and think to themselves they need to search the space within themselves, because by searching that space they move away from their inner space and they contaminate it. It still always will be spacious, but the aspect of running through space, searching through space, seems more inclined to have a greater sense of joy than at the present time going inside. But many scientists are coming back to the point of away from the science and more into inner silence. So that's really how the Kalpa tree is, really. There is no rights or wrong. It's just an evolution, or a better word really is a devolution. It's moving away, and it's meant to move away to flourish completely, and then at the end of the old tree, that's when the Supreme gets the signal to come again. Once all his children have played their roles on earth, Remember, he doesn't have any biasness, so every soul has a right to play their role in the way that they wish to, in the way that they're meant to, and he has that respect for all his children. So all 7.5 billion souls have to play their role out. But meantime, while the world is coming to its conclusion through all the terrible things that are happening these days, the re-establishment of a golden truth for consciousness is taking place. So, kept it really short and sweet, but it actually does, when you actually churn the tree and see the way everyone's, ask yourself what that person's religion is, because some people's religion is even ego, other people's are their attachments, other people's are their reminiscing of the past. So that's their religion that they're tied to. They might not see it as a bondage, but in reality, anything that the mind keeps getting pulled by is a bondage of the mind. So let's do a meditation now to actually experience the self to be an ancestor soul, an old soul. I turn within, moving my mind away from the heaviness of matter, inside the self, to light. I, the soul, am light. I, the soul, connect to my true nature inside of love. And as love fills my mind becomes peaceful, patient and tolerant, and a loving place to dwell. I dwell wrapped in love for my own mind, from my own mind, and love brings me into a state of unity, alignment with my true nature, sweet nature, beautiful nature, quiet, serene and powerful. My goodness, my feel-good factor brings me power, and I start to understand that I have a different role, a special role to play on the world stage as an ancestor soul, sharing my best wishes with my brothers and sisters. And as I do, I don't feel senior, but I feel like I'm becoming a child of God, place where I started from was a child, innocent but powerful, light and loving, giving my best, seeing the souls of the earth very best that they may not be able to see in themselves. An ancestor soul sees through all negativity and touches the beauty of every soul, the goodness, the wonder of themselves lies at the heart of their being, behind the mask that they play. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti.